Good afternoon and welcome to COVID and the Law. This is your legal light and help law in these trying times. Today, we continue from where we stopped last week. It's a part 2 of the questions that were raised last week. But more particularly now, as we know that private schools are one of those that are hardest hit by the pandemic's devastating chaos, we have received a number of letters, emails from you asking particularly why would a private school cut salaries when it is still receiving full fee amounts, particularly also when the e-learning is going on without any negotiations with parents or guardians. We ask questions. How justified are the managers of these schools in asking for e-learning fees, particularly for parents and guardians who may have already paid the school fees in full for the year? Can parents and guardians also have refunds, as some of you are asking? These will dominate the discussion this afternoon. And of course, it is your program, so you are a part of it. Thank you. Now, let's get across the globe and find out what is happening. Some schools across the country have adopted several measures to deal with the closure of schools, while others are cutting down staff. Others are offering parents discounts for the next term. There is more in our news round.
The British International School BIS has waived 50% off school fees for the third term of the 2019-2020 academic year. The decision, according to the school's management, is part of measures to cushion parents and guardians during the outbreak of the coronavirus, which has led to a lockdown in parts of the country. In a letter to parents, all students from primary to secondary, excluding Year 11 students, will pay 50% of their fees. Since the announcement of the partial lockdown in Accra, management of the school adopted the use of e-learning platforms to ensure the smooth running of teaching and learning. A letter from the principal of the school, Franklin Ajete, said, We would have liked to reduce the fees further. However, this will affect the payment of teachers' salary. You will agree with me that we will have to retain our teachers to facilitate the smooth running of teaching and learning during and after the pandemic. Meanwhile, Galaxy International School has also reduced fees for the third term of the 2019-2020 academic term by 50% as a supportive gesture for parents during the COVID-19 outbreak.
Good. Very good. Who wants to try? Teacher, let me try. What? Who? Oh, okay.
Earthquake and then volcanoes. So the movements normally have 3 main features. Yes. Which force of the magnet will repel? What is the meaning of repel? Push away. The magnet pushes push away. Okay. Now, east and west. B, west and east. North and north. North and south. Which one?
A school owner at Ewutu Senya in the central region has been explaining how the closure of the schools is affecting their finances.
We have a lot of challenges because most of the parents don't have smartphone. It's only a handful of people who can reach to this platform, and it's very worrisome. There was a time there was this link posted on our phones asking us to access this platform, and most of them, when you go to that platform, it's a scam. It doesn't work. So for now, I am pre-financing it. I'm giving them the data. For me, my main source of income depends on the bank. We take loans from the banks, and that's what we use to operate the schools. So we intend paying it in installments. So now we can't even access the loan from the banks anymore. They are now calling us to come and pay, and we don't have the money. So since they've been asked to go home, they've not received any salary.
Also, some parents of Alpha Beta School in Dansom and Accra are unhappy about the lack of negotiation and cost of the e-learning process. They alleged the school has denied them audience after a petition and a complaint.
No, education first. Then you think about the money, Alpha Beta. I think been schooling with you for a long time. But all you want, Alpha Beta, is the money.
Yes.
It's the money.
Yes.
Have you called the parent to ask, are you okay?
No.
Are you okay? How can we help you in this season, in this epidemic? Alpha Beta never did that. All Alpha Beta wants since day one is the money and the money. They don't want to promote PTA. They don't want to promote PTA as the GES is enforcing. Alpha Beta said no PTA, so parents have no voice in the education of their kids.
It has not been easy for the proprietors because we generate our funds through the fees that our parents pay. And here is a case that an announcement was made. For that matter, we're not able to take our fees. So we have written a petition to the president that the president should come to the aid of the private schools. If the president cannot, or if the government cannot shoulder part of the salary, then at least a soft loan should be given to the private schools, I mean the proprietors, so that we can in turn settle our teachers. And when school resume, we are going to pay that with interest.
A problem. I mean, people are losing their jobs, businesses are collapsing, and everybody struggling to make it through this pandemic. The school sent out messages to all parents, letting us know they are working around the table to find a way to help the kids learn from home. But what gave me the shock of my life was AB management asking for full fees to be paid. I quote, "With all these in mind, we are offering a discount on the third term tuition fees as following. Clients who are able to pay the full term fees by the 15th of May 2020 will benefit from 1. 25% discount on tuition for preschool, the nursery 1 to nursery 3, and 10% discount on tuition from KG, primary, JHS, and ABCC, unquote." Most parents were not happy, and because AB management refused for us to have a PTA, parents had no option but to form a parent group on WhatsApp platform. So the group decided to form a 6-member committee. They were sent to AB management on the 27th of April. The group met by the head of the academic affairs. They were told there was an ongoing training with the management of the school. So they had to leave and left their proposal hoping to get a positive response. The second time the 6-member committee went to the school, still management was busy and couldn't see them. So they came back to give the feedback to the parents on the platform. Most parents were not happy with this, so all parents decided to have a united front and go to the school, observing all protocols concerning the COVID-19, only to be treated awfully. Parents were told we were not allowed to be on the compound because it's a private property. We were mobs, and also what we were doing was illegal. A parent even called to ask whether they can choose to omit out of the virtual learning for the awards in the nursery, only to be told that removing yourself from it means you are out of the school, because they have a backlog of new kids to replace whoever omits out. It saddens me to hear this. It feels like for 32 years of Alpha Beta School, it's all about money, money, money. And that's the most important priority for them.
Right. So you've heard school managers and you have heard a parent also who is very disturbed, very unhappy about her child's school engagement and the payment of for e-learning for the child. We have all your issues which are related to this put together in a manner that we will have a discussion that is tailored to answer your questions and provide you legal help. Joining me to do this is Esni Okujeto. She's a partner and heads one of Okujeto and Associates corporate commercial law groups. Her focus is on mergers and acquisitions, capital markets, oil and gas, corporate law, commercial law, labor law, intellectual property, and arbitration. Thank you so very much, Esni, for making time to join us to serve God and country.
It's a pleasure.
Great to have you. Right. So we begin by asking from you what you make of the circumstances where parents and guardians are disturbed about being asked to pay for e-learning fees without any opportunity of parents association meetings to have any discussion. So it is unilateral, and they are being asked to either take or leave it. What can they do in the circumstance?
Okay, so first of all, let me put out a disclaimer. In terms of contract law, everything turns depending on the provisions of the contract. So what I'm about to say, all these legal principles, turn on each individual contract. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Now, the issue is it an e-learning fee or is it the usual fee that you pay to the school? So there's a fundamental difference.
Right.
Because the school and the parents enter into a contract whereby parents pay school fees and then the school will then teach your children with certain expectations per your contract.
Right.
Now, with COVID and with the government's restriction in movements, where there's a ban on schools, basically children are not allowed to meet or congregate in the school anymore. What is now happening is the schools have found another way in which to be able to provide their service or their teaching platform to the students, and that is via e-learning platforms. Now, from the letters that you read, it's not necessarily an e-learning fee per se, but it's school fees that parents are supposed to pay.
Right.
And parents have already entered into a contract with the school to pay school fees. So it's a fundamental obligation.
All right.
Some schools, based on the circumstances and based on the fact that students are not physically in school, so they are not able to provide them all the services that they used to have given a refund. Some have not. So basically, the problem is that the school is still performing its contract. One way or the other, there's been some difficulty in meeting their obligations under the contract, but they still have an obligation to teach.
All right.
And they have found a new way via the e-learning platform.
All right.
So parents still have an obligation to pay the school fees. Now, the difference is the fact that the students or the children are at home. The parents are part of that teaching obligation. It used to be just the schools,
Right.
whereby the students will be in the school, the teachers are there, you have your extracurricular activities, what have you. But now, students are at home, parents are providing the learning or the teaching equipment as well.
Right.
Parents have to provide internet, and parents have to have oversight of their children, especially if they are younger and cannot sit there. So definitely parents have taken on some form of an obligation.
Exactly.
But the school is still performing one way or the other. You still signed an agreement with the school whereby if the school teaches your children, you still have to pay a fee. So parents are under an obligation to pay that fee. The issue is the school supposed to give a discount or the school is not supposed to give a discount? That is the fundamental obligation.
All right.
Now, for that, you have to take each individual contract that was signed between the school and the parent and look through it and see if they have provided for this scenario. It is only if they haven't provided for this scenario, then you go and look into the law, into common law, to see if there is any provision or any way in which some assistance can be given either to the school or the parent, depending on which side you are looking at it.
All right.
Now, I know there have been a number of theories going back and forth in terms of force majeure and in terms of frustration.
Right.
Now, I know you did, last week you did something in terms of employees. So it's on that same basis. But
right.
I'm sure we have parents who were not there for your last
That's
program.
correct. That's correct.
So basically, we can start with force majeure.
Right.
Now, force majeure is basically saying that you are unable to perform the contract, that there has been some intervening event which has prevented both parties from performing the contract in the way and manner in which the parties had made provision for, in respect of their individual obligations. Now, the issue of force majeure is it's a contractual term. So provision has to be made in your contract for force majeure.
Okay.
And with force majeure, what happens is that there are certain fundamental examples. Normally, a force majeure clause will have examples which fall in. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Each party would make provision for the circumstances under which force majeure would operate.
Okay.
Now, most contracts seem to have, we'll say, acts of God. What is an act of God is a very wide definition. Where it falls under is very difficult. But some would have the issue of the pandemic. We all know that WHO has declared COVID-19 a pandemic.
Right.
So if you have in your contract and it says clearly a pandemic is the equivalent of a force majeure, we are good.
Okay.
After that, you now look at what are the consequences of force majeure in your contract. Does it say that the contract is terminated whereby the person who was supposed to perform need not perform? So the contract is terminated at that point in time.
Okay.
And we are good to go.
Okay.
Some would also make provision for the contract to be suspended.
All right.
So when the contract is suspended, which means that the schools in this situation we are talking about do not have to perform by teaching the students.
Okay.
Then the parents do not have to pay school fees.
Right.
basically there's a truncation of the contract or there's a termination of the contract. But with that, there has to be a specific clause. When you read the contract, you'll be able to tell if you come under there.
All right.
Now, there's another legal principle, which is frustration, right?
That's good.
Now, yes, so frustration is also, so let me read a definition within a case.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
Frustration has been defined in the case of National Carriers versus Pinal Northing. This is in the 1981 All England report, and it says, there is a supervening event without default of either party, and for which the contract makes no provision, and which so significantly changes the nature, not merely the expense or onus of the other contractual rights or obligations from which the parties could reasonably have contemplated at the time of its execution, that it will be unjust to hold them to the literal sense of its stipulations in the circumstances. So there has to be an intervening event.
Right.
We can say COVID-19 is an intervening event. But the issue with frustration is that it brings the contract to an absolute end.
Okay.
Whereby each of the parties will have no further obligation. Okay? So it can happen where the subject matter of the contract is no more. So, for example, the school does not exist. Therefore, the school cannot provide that service.
All right.
Okay. Now, in our situation, the schools are existing, the schools are providing the service. So you can't say that the contract is at an end. The contract has not terminated.
All right.
The school has actually done the right thing, because in contract law, each party has an obligation to mitigate whenever there's an intervening event.
Right.
So what the schools have done is to mitigate.
Okay. In this all right. Please
Yes.
finish. Yeah. You were about to say something. If you can conclude, I'll ask my question.
Okay, all right. So what I was basically about to say is that we can't come under frustration per se, because the contract is still ongoing.
Okay.
You can't come under force majeure. But now it's an issue for both parties to come and contract or negotiate with each other.
Okay.
As in the fact that, look, based on these circumstances, I cannot perform fully the service. So me, the parent, I am also under an obligation to teach my children. You, the school, physically you're not there. So it means that your electricity bill has gone down.
Right.
Your overhead costs somewhat would be less. Now, in terms of labor, some schools have gone ahead to negotiate reductions of salaries with their employees. Does that mean that because you have negotiated a reduction, I am also entitled to some reduction in the fees? But it's for both parties to come in.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, when we draft our contracts, we sometimes do not make provision for good faith, whereby the parties are bound and obliged to negotiate in good faith based on the circumstances, the renewal of the fees. So if you don't have that, unfortunately, the parents cannot say, I need a reduction in fees. It's not automatic. There are other legal remedies which maybe later on we'll discuss. But in terms of frustration and force majeure, no.
Okay. But where we talk about a circumstance where the parents complained, you can tell they had paid fees for the term. The term did not come to an end when the school was suspended.
Yes.
So if I had paid fees for the term, or I had paid fees for the whole year, is the school justified in asking me to pay for e-learning? Am I not entitled to a refund first of all before we talk about the e-learning?
But you see, the issue, like what I've said, the problem is that what is the obligation of the school? To teach the students.
That is so.
What's the you have to go to what the fundamental obligation is, right? Fundamental obligation is to teach the students. That is a day school. When you go to a boarding school, it's completely different, because there they are supposed to board the students.
Right.
They are supposed to also feed the students. I know some day school, there's something about the feeding fee, because the school also feeds the students, right?
Right.
Is the school teaching the students? If the school is teaching the students, the parents still have an obligation to pay the school fees because the school is still teaching the students.
Right.
You can say, in effect, that the way and manner in which you are teaching the students is not giving them the impact in which they would have had if they were in school.
Right.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
You have also
noted that the parents in this circumstance and the guardians are actually playing a certain role in the teaching which they would not have played if the children were to be made available in school.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you look at
they
that,
are the ones buying the data and all.
Exactly. So now with that one, I keep saying that you need to look at the terms of the contract, the different provisions and what it says.
Right.
Generally, what you can say is that based on the manner in which the contract has been performed, the parents have been put to some loss, or the parents have also had to do something to put to effect that contract.
All right.
Now, that means that the parents may have suffered certain damages from the way in which the contract has been performed.
Mm-hmm.
So your relief is in respect of damages, which is a claim you have to take to court.
All right.
And you have to prove that the way and manner in which you have executed the contract has resulted in me incurring these additional costs. So I want to be paid back or compensated for these extra costs I have had to.
But if I understand, a central point you make is that in these circumstances, there ought to be negotiations for the e-learning fees. Because as we understand, most of the schools in our circumstance in Ghana will not have had a certain detailed contract with parents and with guardians. And therefore, there would not be provision for force majeure and upon which they would rely. So now that this has happened, which was not contemplated by both parties, the best thing to do is to ensure that they are negotiating, because each party is playing a role in this e-learning education.
Exactly. Now, my issue is the use of the term e-learning fees.
Right.
Have the schools really termed it e-learning, or that's a term we are giving? Because from what I have seen, and I must say it's a limited knowledge. These are documents that have come before me. What the schools are saying is we are still charging you fees, but they are not terming it e-learning. If they are using the expression e-learning fees, that is outside your contract.
So it will be a new contract or new terms that they are coming into.
It's an additional term that they are imposing in the contract.
Right. So if a school says, I will not negotiate with you, take it or leave it.
Yes.
Where does that leave the parent or the guardian?
So now it's either you want to go ahead with the contract within these limited terms and then say, okay, I would now take an action against you to say that the performance in which, or the way and manner in which you have performed the contract is not per our contract.
Okay.
Therefore, I have incurred certain costs, which you now refer to as damages, and I need to be compensated for that cost.
Right. How about the teachers, some of the teachers in these schools who are asking, do the managers of the school have a right to rely on frustration to seek to reduce or cut their salaries at a time when the fees may have been paid in full, or they are the teachers engaged in the e-learning and parents and guardians are paying fees? So how do they rely on frustration or force majeure, if you want, to say that is the basis for cutting your salary? Take it or leave it.
Okay, so it's similar to the contract between the parents and the school.
Right.
It goes by the provisions of the contract. Most employment contracts, I stand to be corrected, but most employment contracts do not have force majeure clauses within them. So similarly, the school cannot rely on a force majeure clause to reduce workers' salary.
Okay.
The school cannot rely on frustration to reduce workers' salary. Now, when you go into the fact that the teachers are even performing, be it not within the school atmosphere, by being available via e-learning to teach the students, they're also performing under the terms of the contract.
Okay.
So the schools have no right, per contract law, to unilaterally change the terms of the contract.
All right. But you have
Similarly, they have to negotiate with the teachers. Look, based on these circumstances, we've had to incur this extra cost. You are a valuable member to us. We would like to retain you. We don't want to terminate this contract.
Right.
Because if you terminate, you have issues of redundancy and so on. That has to do with employment law.
Okay.
Therefore, let's sit and see how we can make this contract manageable, or how can we seek to meet all these extra costs,
all right,
and still perform our individual obligations. So it's an obligation to negotiate,
all right,
at best.
Right. So before I take my viewers' calls for you, just in 30 seconds, can you emphasize the point you made about whether or not a parent who made full fee payment for the year or for the term and now is claiming that you took examination fees, there have not been exams. You took extra classes fees, there have not been extra classes from the time when school was suspended. You took some other extra fees. I want all these fees back as a refund. Was it your point that on the basis of the pandemic and the matters of force majeure and frustration, each party cannot claim anything from the other?
Okay, so when you add examination fees and when you add feeding, that puts a different spell to it.
All right.
Okay? Because you can have a contract, but certain terms can be severed from it.
All right.
So you have technically not provided an exam. So you are not entitled to an examination fee. So they are entitled to a refund of that.
All right.
You have not provided feeding. So in that respect, they can get that money back.
All right. They can get for the period that they have not provided feeding.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly, because the school has not met its obligation to provide that exam or to provide that feeding. And in terms of boarding facilities as well, you have not provided them room and board.
All right. Okay.
So definitely you need to refund that one. But it's an issue of going to the court to have that enforced. It's not as straightforward. You can enter into negotiations with the school.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Please stay on for us. We'll take a quick break. We'll return and take questions from our viewers.
Okay.
You're welcome back. This is COVID and the law. It's your legal light and health law in these trying times. Now let's begin the conversation. And you can call us 030-221-16922. 030-221-16922. Our first caller, Nuruddin from Walwale. Let's hear you, Nuruddin. Hello, Nuruddin. Oh, we just lost Nuruddin. Nuruddin, you have been on the line for such a long time. Call back. We will pick your call and have your issues addressed for you. Now, as we wait for your call, 030-221-1691 to 2. Make a call and let's hear what your issues are about the e-learning and the questions of non-negotiation. You have heard the lawyer spend time to explain in detail what ought to be done and what is wrong for what is going on. Now we have Kojo. Kojo is calling from Spintex. Hi Kojo, what's your issue?
Hello?
Yes, Kojo, you're on. Let's hear you.
Good afternoon, Samson.
Hi, Kojo.
Yes, a quick one. I think there are a couple of issues that come up here. Number one is these schools are private schools.
Right.
They bill, a lot of them bill per term, and some bill per year.
Right.
Good. So they bill you for the term. What they are saying, to parents is that, okay, because of what has happened, and mind you, most of these schools we are complaining about run either the British curriculum or the American curriculum. So their mode of teaching and learning is quite different from our normal schools that do the DEC and the what.
You're correct.
Most of the children in these schools from year 5 use one form of electronic device or the other as part of their learning. It's a given.
Right.
So during normal school hours, for instance, those from year 5 upwards spend about 30 to 40% of their time on their tablets doing e-learning, which is part of the education they render. So because this has happened, what is happening is that for those at the lower level, the schools have had to invest.
Okay, we have very many people on the line. If you could just go straight to what your question will be.
Okay, my point is this. They are private schools, they've charged USC, they've offered a discount. What I am seeing is a certain posture by a lot of parents saying that this is the discount we want. You either give it to us or we won't accept it.
Okay. Thank you. I think your point is noted. Thank you very much, Kojo. Beatrice is calling from Obuasi. Hi, Beatrice.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Beatrice, what's your question?
In fact, I just want to say hello to you people. You are doing a good job. But my challenge is I have a personal problem which I want to get in touch with Mr. Sampson.
Okay,
so
thank you.
His number could be given to me.
Okay, thank you very much. The producers will deal with you on that in that regard. Thank you very much. Okay, so Kojo, your point that you made, I'm sure that you would have heard Esni very clear on that there is the need to do, if you like, an add-on, sort of a new contract that's an add-on sort of a contract to determine the way forward because of the circumstances. The problem with the case of the day was the parents whose major concern was that the school was not giving them the opportunity at all for a discussion. Rose, you are calling from Dansuman. Hello, Rose. Let's hear you.
Yes, my question is, I think my children, my world school, they should at least interacted with the parents before bringing out any charges from the parents. There were no interaction, and I think that.
Okay, I needed to ask Beatrice how exactly her children's school got to introduce the e-learning for the children. She said there was no interaction at all. Okay, joining us, if you're joining us on Zoom, put on your video. Those of you who have been waiting to join us on Zoom, you can put your video on so that we can link you right now. Right. Okay. Right. So, Kojo's first question, Esni, was about parents and guardians also being sympathetic and a little understanding of the managers of these schools. What do you say, Esni?
Understand, and we see the viewpoint of the school, but we also have our viewpoint. And I think the issue is that we can make provision for different scenarios within a contract, but it's not indefinite. Anything can happen. COVID is one of the things anybody least expected.
Right.
And the fundamental thing is that each party should sit down and negotiate with each other.
All right.
So it's not necessarily a new contract, but sit down and try and see where you can meet together and have everybody understand. The school can explain, look, in as much as physically we are not within the school, these are the kind of expenses that we have. And so we still have an obligation to meet. For example, I don't know if it's all schools who have been able to negotiate with their employees. So they would still have to pay maybe full fees, full salary to their employees till they come to some negotiation.
Okay.
The employees may also be saying, no, we are providing a different form of education. We are teaching from home.
All right.
So you have to take that into consideration. But I think it is the schools should not make it this is it, take it or leave it.
Thank you.
Because
Let's hear.
Persons, it's a living contract. You're going to continue to perform it.
All right.
So
let's hear Dr. Edujima. Dr. Edujima is calling us from East Legon. Hello, Doc. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I'm a school director, so I want to make a contribution.
Great to have you, Doc.
You see, currently, we cannot say that the third term will not come on. We cannot say. We are not too sure.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Edujima.
Hello, yes.
Yes, you are on.
The proprietor of St. Peter's Mission Schools.
Okay.
And I want to make a contribution.
You have said that currently we cannot say that the third term will not come on. You can continue from that point.
We are not too sure. Most school proprietors are not too sure. We don't know when science and data would inform the president to ask schools to go back. So my view is this. Schools who are on the e-learning system, we are on an e-learning platform, but we've not asked our parents to make any contribution yet because we think it's too early. We are so hopeful that soon school will reopen. But if it stays for a very long time, our thought is that we will ask parents to make contribution towards their third term fee.
Okay.
Because we are so hopeful that third term will resume, but perhaps it may resume late.
Okay.
This is our point.
All right.
I don't think schools that even have asked parents to pay part of fees, what have you. I think it's too early.
Okay.
Because we don't know what science and data will tell us tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
But parents can be made to make contribution towards their third term fee,
right,
so that we can sustain the e-learning program until we know what science and data will tell us in future.
Dr. Edujima, so how are you taking care of your teachers? What has happened also to your non-teaching staff? If you are not taking any money from parents and guardians for the e-learning you are providing their children?
Yeah, for us, our employment contract with our staff is that at any point in time, they can give us 1 month notice and leave, or we can give them 1 month notice that after 1 month, we don't need their services, or 1 month salary.
Right.
You pay 1 month salary in advance. This is in our employment contract. We have assembled all our staff and told them that, well, normally we would have reopened the third term on 28th of April, normally. We're vacating somewhere first week in April and reopening 28th of April. So if this problem had come, we can still pay our parents, our staff salary. Should we even come middle of May, we can still pay them April salary.
Okay.
So what we have told ourselves is that at any point in time that school reopens, we will owe our staff 1 month salary.
I see.
So we are holding on to this. We don't know what science and data will tell.
Okay.
Science and data could make us meet with our staff again and change this thinking.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edujima, for connecting with us and sharing this perspective from the point of view of a manager of a private school. If you are on the Zoom, you can put your video on. We have about less than 10 minutes to go. But Esni is still on the line, and thank you so very much. I can't thank you enough, Esni, for making time. We know you are a very busy person, but you made time to share such platinum legal advice to viewers who have been seeking these answers. What do you say to Dr. Edujima's approach to managing the circumstances?
Management takes a decision. Now they have the documentation within which they use. They know the cost that they are having. So if for them they do not want to charge any fee at this moment, but from what I seem to get the impression that third term has not yet started for them.
That's so.
If it means it has not yet started, then they are not even entitled to third term fees.
Right.
So basically they are providing some kind of e-learning program for the students for now.
Right.
There are issues in respect of the fact that he says that the staff have a 1 month notice. Now, our labor laws will click in. Yes, you can give that 1 month notice. But if you let go of a large number of staff in such a manner whereby you keep only a limited number who are performing the duties of that large number, it could amount to a redundancy depending on the particular facts of the case. So he could be getting into a legal problem over there, but that's another issue altogether.
Sounds like restructuring.
It does, exactly.
Okay, in which case he can terminate, but the employees that are being terminated will be entitled to redundancy payments.
Okay. Exactly.
Okay, we have someone calling from Makati. Sami, you're calling from Makati Hales. Let's hear you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sami. Let's hear you.
Yes, what I have to say, this e-learning thing, my kids, for instance, they told us to pay full fees. And they didn't give us an ultimatum that if you pay that you get a 10% discount. And in this situation and everything going on,
I can't hear you clearly, but you're saying that your school is asking you to pay fees with 10% discount. Is it fees for third term? Is it fees for third term or fees for e-learning?
Fees for third term. There's nothing like e-learning.
Okay, so third term with 10% discount, and you are not happy about that?
No, 10% if you pay 450.
Okay, thank you. I think your point is noted, and Esni will assist us shortly. Yeah, you are calling us from cantonment. What do you have to say?
Okay, hi. I just wanted to find out, from what the lawyer is saying, basically my contract with the school is for the school to teach my child for a fee.
Yes.
And I don't consider homework being emailed to me for the week. Teaching my 6-year-old child. My child is 6. How is he supposed to do this homework by himself? So I don't consider my child being taught. If I have to spend the time teaching my child, then why am I paying the school? So that is what I don't understand. And the school is not willing to engage to discuss this fee that it's charging.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so Esni, can we take and then we could talk about Sami also, who is not excited about the 10% discount for the third term fees.
So in respect of basically would have to look at her contract before you can really say what her legal rights are. But on a general overview, the teachers are supposed to teach the students. Now, if for one reason or the other, she is not even getting an e-learning platform, all she is getting is homework for her child to do, basically that's not teaching a child.
Right.
Now, it has to do with what is the definition of teaching and so on and so forth. That's another issue altogether.
All right.
Now, if her child is not being taught, and all that is being done is she has to now do homework with the child, then she's not really getting what she entered into the contract with the school for, because there's no some form of teaching or new knowledge that is being imparted to her child.
Okay.
So there, you can basically say that the school has not met its obligations under the contract.
Right. How about Sami?
That.
Yeah.
And in effect, she can say that, look, you haven't met your obligation to teach my child, and therefore I don't need to pay your school fees.
Correct.
But mind you, we need to look at her contract and see what the exact terms are. What is the school's obligation?
That's a very important caveat. In some 30 seconds, what can we say to Sami? 30% discount for third term fees. He's not excited about it.
It's an issue of negotiation. So at the end of the day, the school has to incur certain costs. The school has given you a 30% discount.
Okay.
If you feel based on the service that the school is offering to you, it is not up to the standard for which you contracted for, your remedy is not through force majeure, not through frustration, but you can go to the court and prove whatever damages you have incurred based on the way and manner in which the school has performed.
Thank you, Richard.
But mind you, it's not that easy. It's going to be very scientific because.
Right,
you have to prove.
Richard, you are the very last person, and you have to do this within some 30 seconds. What's your issue, Richard? Where are you joining us from?
Yes, sir. I'm joining you from Accra, and then we have some kids. I'm representing the Alphabeta Parents Group, and then we have a lot of parents. It's almost about 300 of us. You understand the government gave Alphabeta, and then the private schools a stimulus check, which they have to register for because the government is helping them through this pandemic season or time. And then also, we know that they're supposed to have a PTA where parents are supposed to be able to have a say on this, on whatever happens to the kids in their schooling. Also, nursery, you cannot teach the next nursery virtual, you know. And then they need people to take care of these kids. They understand that people is having a hard time, especially parents, you know, just to even have money. And then also we asked them, can the curriculum be given to the kids so they have to test?
So clearly, Richard, it's a concern. It's a concern that you are ventilating, and you want it to get to the attention of the authorities, and particularly if indeed government has done anything to support your school or any school for that matter. We have just barely some 90 seconds to go. Esni, once again, thank you very much. Can you at this point just give us some advice as to how to deal with our schools and how the school managers should also deal with us? Oh, unfortunate. I understand that we have lost Esni on Esni's connection, but my guest has been Esni Okujeto. She's a partner and heads one of Sam Okujeto and Associate Corporate Commercial Law Groups. Her focus is on mergers and acquisitions, capital markets, oil and gas, corporate law, commercial law, labor law, and that's where she actually is helping us a lot more, intellectual property and arbitration, and that has also come to light a lot more. This has been Covered and the Law, your legal light and help law in these trying times. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. We'll come your way again, same time, Sunday. God bless you.